Hey everybody, checking in with you. I know we're not on vacation because normally most people on this channel are watching our travel videos, but we're not doing as much traveling these days. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something I've been making a lot of the last few months. I made a few raised planter boxes for my wife. Obviously she shares that stuff with her friends. Many of her friends have wanted them, so I've been making those for them, and then I've been, at the same time, when I make one for a friend, I usually make 2 or 3 more. I'll make 3, 4, 5 at the same time, and I've been selling those on various platforms. Tons of platforms out there for you to be able to sell stuff, and there's a demand for it, and I can sell these pretty easily for like $100 to $125 a piece. And when I'll put a breakdown of all the materials in the description of this video. You know, depending on how you build it, you can put these together for $25 to $30 a box. And then we're talking a couple hours of actually cutting the lumber, assembling it. In this example, what I'm doing today is I'm building 5 planter boxes for my wife's friend, and I anticipate I'll be able to cut everything and get everything assembled in just about a day. A lot of that has to do with how much the kids distract me, because they're at home all the time right now, and getting things done at home can be a challenge. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this lumber right here. This lumber on the table basically represents 1 planter box, and what I've got here is I've got 6 5-foot fence pickets that are cedar, and then I have 5, so I've got 6 fence pickets that are cedar, and then I've got 5 6-foot redwood 1x4 fence pickets, and then I've got a 2x2. I like the 2x2. You can use a 2x3 or 2x4, but I use these. You'll see how I do this. One of these I'll rip in the table saw. I'll rip this in half because I'll use as the trim around the top of the box, and then the other 4 I basically cut in half, and I'll use 1 for each leg. So I'll have a, you know, obviously 1 fence picket will represent each leg, and if it's 6 feet, I take the this off the top. So I'm right at about just under 3 feet in height when it comes to a completed box. When I put these together, you're gonna see that basically if I'm using a 5-foot picket like this, or a 6-foot picket, depending on what's available, because I've noticed that everybody's building stuff these days, availability has not been the best. But if I'm using a 5-foot picket like this, I'll take the end off, and then I'll take the width of the garden box, and then whatever I have left over here basically represents the length of my my garden box. These are a couple ends from another box that I cut a couple weeks ago. So basically these are the ends of the box, and then this becomes the length. So just imagine 1 fence picket is basically represents kind of like half of the box, an L, and then 1 other fence picket will represent the other side and the other end. So I need 2 pickets on this side, and I need 2 pickets on that side, and then I need 2 fence pickets for the bottom. Pretty straightforward. When you cut the bottoms, you're going to be left with a lot of extra, well, not a lot, but you know, every planter box you build, you'll have 2 pickets on the bottom, and that's going to leave you with 2 ends that you don't use. But what I like is I'll save these, and I'll rip these down. As you'll see, I'm going to use these as some additional support in the end of the planter box, and then I'll also rip up some pieces, and I'll do some additional support on the side. I probably put a little bit too much effort into building these, but I want to put out like a good quality box. I've seen a lot of boxes online, and they're you could probably put them together for 10-15 bucks a box, but you're not going to get as much money for them, and I just don't think they look as nice. I think when you see the final product of what we're going to do today, I think you're going to think, wow, for 25-30 bucks, that's a pretty nice planter box. And that's something that I've seen at some of the big nurseries around town selling for like 150 bucks or more. All right, so that's enough. We're gonna get started. If you've done something similar, I'd love to get some feedback and some comments below. Again, I'll put all the information in the description of this video about the cost, the breakdown of the lumber, the cuts that I typically make when I'm doing this. All right, last thing is also be sure to check out the next video where I talk about a Lego table that I assemble. Very inexpensive, very easy to sell. You'll make some additional money, so be sure check out the Lego table video. Let's start making the planter box. Alright, so I just cut down 30 pickets because I'm making 5 garden beds. 2 pickets on each side, 2 pickets on the bottom. That's why I did 30, because there's 6 per garden bed. Right now I'm gonna do what I typically do. I've seen different planter boxes have different legs where the legs are 2x4s that kind of are inside the planter box. I think that's an easier, quicker way to do it. I just don't really care for the look. I like the way you're gonna see I do it. I like to run some trim on the outside, and then I use like half of a 2x4 on the inside for the support. Kind of hard to explain, but basically what I end up doing is I buy these redwood fence pickets that are 3.5 inches wide and 6 feet long, because this has an angle here where it's chopped at the top. I'm gonna cut these at 35 1/4. So basically, and then when I add the trim, we're gonna be at right about 3 feet in height. Pretend that this is one of the sides, one of the ends of the planter box, and then this is a leg. What I need is a piece here for support, and I like to use like a 2x2. Depending on how wide your legs are, you could use a 2x4, but we're going to need to cut a piece, 4 pieces for each planter box for 4 legs. I've got 2 for each table. What I'm gonna run them through the table saw. So I'll just rip them in half. So they give me 4 for each table. If you don't have a table saw, just get 2x2s. I think 2x2s or 2x3 is more than enough strength. I don't think you need to go with the 2x4, but I would just go with a 2x2 or a 2x3. So what I did was I took 16 1/4. I took each fence picket, the ones I was using for 5 feet. I basically took 16 1/4 inches off of that, off of each picket, and that's what I'm using for the ends. And then the length of my planter box is basically whatever I have left over. So if you use 5/8 inch fence picket, then it's 7.5 inches wide, chances are you're going to be right around 16 1/4 inches on your end pieces. And I'm going to continue building this so you have a better understanding of how I'm putting this together. We got the legs assembled. I'm going to show you in the next clip how I put these legs together. We cut all those pieces down earlier. Now we just need to add these on the ends, and then we'll do an additional picket on each side here. And I'll add some wood glue to this, and then I like to run some redwood trim along the top, which I'll show you in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of assemble one before I assemble. Normally I would cut everything and then I would just assemble them all at the same time, but I put together the first one here just to give you a little bit better idea. I definitely like to run like a 2x2 or a 2x4 across for additional support because we don't have any legs in the middle. Even a 1x2 would probably be strong enough. A 2x4 might be a little bit of an overkill, but this is just some extra lumber I had here. So you cut a 2x4 the width of 2 fence pickets, which would be in this case about 15 inches because we're using 7.5 inch pickets. There's a smoother side and a rougher side. So I usually try to take the smoothest side and put that on the outside just to give it a little better look. And then something else to consider too is the direction you want these screws to go. I mean, you could do the legs from the outside in like I did. You could also consider doing them from the inside out. I like the way that this leg looks. I think it gives it a little more dimension, and then with the redwood legs and then the cedar for the box, I think that gives it some nice color, depending on if you're going to stain it or just put on a seal or just leave it alone. So what I typically do is I'll buy a 3.5 wide, so it's a 1x4 redwood fence picket, and I can usually find them in a 6-foot height. So for me, because I have a table saw, I'll rip these in half, and then I'll use one for each planter box. If you want to go, if you don't have a table saw, if you want to just keep it to 3.5 inches wide, it's still a great look. I think it'll look really nice. You'll just need 2 6-foot fence pickets. So that's what I'm going to do now. I took off about 16 inches on these. I'm going to run them through the miter saw, or run them through the table saw, and then we'll use the miter saw to cut them and finish it up. The other thing I was thinking about actually when I was making these is that I'm pretty confident that, because I've seen a lot of raised garden boxes out there that don't have this extra 2x2 here for support. They just have the 1x3 or the 1x4s or the 1x3 for legs. These by themselves are probably more than enough. It's probably plenty strong, but I don't know. Personally, I like to add these 2x2s. But what I was thinking too is you may wait until the very end to add these. So put your legs on and then add these at the end, just because if you cut these, if the cut on these is just a little bit off, it can make the edges here, if you end up doing trim along the top, a little uneven. So something to think about. You could cut these exactly to where you need them to be at the end, and then glue them, screw them in. So there's like 100 different ways you can build a raised planter box. So I'll put the exact amounts that I paid to put this box together in the description and the lumber list that I used. And I think, you know, for 20-30 bucks you can put a nice box together that you should be able to sell for $125 online pretty easily. I'm gonna go into now making the Lego table that I also make. That's very easy. It's actually much easier to put together than this. I might do that in another video. I might do that at the end of this video. So I'll talk about the Lego table next. If you have any questions about this planter box, I'd love to get some feedback and hear from you in the comments below. If you've sold any of them, let me know. Maybe you have a video of some that you've made. I'd love to see your style, your design. So that's about it. On to the Legos.